Hey everybody, today we are going to be starting a new series of English learning videos about a topic that I am really passionate about, and this is history. In this video series, I'm going to be talking to you about the origins and elements of Western civilization so that you can better understand why the West is the way that it is today. Starting off, it would be helpful for us, of course, to know where are we in time. And we'll begin over here in China, just so that everybody knows what part of the world I'm talking about. As you can see, we've got China over here. We're going to be talking about a period of time around the year 3000 BCE, which is 3000 years before the year zero. In China, around this time, it would be before the Xia dynasty. Xia Chao dynasty. It would be before the Xia dynasty. This is probably when the Ma Jia Yao culture was flourishing. And this is just to help people who are not from the West understand what kind of time period we're talking about. So over here, we're going to go west, 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 farther west, until we get to a place that today we call the Middle East. But in the past, this place was not called the Middle East. The Middle East is something that we call it today. Historically, this region was called Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is from an ancient language, and it means the land between the rivers. The land between the rivers. We have Meso, that means middle, and Po, that means river, and Tamia, that's like the land between the rivers. Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. And the rivers that are being referred to are here, the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. The Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Today, if you visit this area, the environment is very different from what it would have been in the past. In the past, you would have found a very green, beautiful paradise. The soil was very good for farming, and that is why so many people started to settle in this area and why so many cities began to develop here. It was a very sustainable region. And because of that, this area started to become called the Fertile Crescent. All of this right here. It was called the Fertile Crescent. Fertile means it's good for farming. The land is very fertile. And crescent is this half moon shape. So this half moon shape was very good for farming. It was called the Fertile Crescent. Mesopotamia was the name of this region between these two rivers, Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia is just the name of the place, the area. It was not the name of a culture. The culture that we're going to talk about here is Sumer. Sumer is a civilization. Wenming, a civilization, the civilization of Sumer. So it's possible that the Egyptians learned the idea for writing from Sumer. This area is not very big, so there was cross-cultural contact happening all over here between Mesopotamia and Egypt and Greece and Turkey. All of these areas were definitely interacting. And of course, let's not forget Israel right here in the middle. But at this time, Israel is almost non-existent. In 3000 BC, the Egyptians are already making their Great Pyramids. And over in Sumer, they are also making pyramids that look like step pyramids, like this, almost like a cake. These are called ziggurats. A ziggurat is a step pyramid, and this would have been a holy place. So we are starting off with Sumer because It not only has the oldest writings, but the stories from Sumer became very important and influenced the stories that people told in nearby areas. One story they told was the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh. An epic is a kind of historical poem. Gilgamesh is the name of a king who lived in Sumer. And remember, Sumer is a civilization. It's not a city. Sumer is a civilization inside of Mesopotamia, between the rivers. And Gilgamesh was a king of a city. I'm not sure exactly where it is, somewhere in there. A city called Uruk. In Uruk, you can see some ziggurats, some step pyramids like that. And there is the famous Epic of Gilgamesh about King Gilgamesh. It's very possible that Gilgamesh was a real king because his name is on the king list that we found in Sumer, but the story told about his life is obviously fantasy. Let's talk about the story of Gilgamesh a little bit. In Uruk, you probably would have found some step pyramids, some ziggurats like this. Different areas probably built different kind of ziggurats. I'm not sure if this is a ziggurat from the city of Gilgamesh, but there probably would have been something like that in Uruk. The Epic of Gilgamesh was written down using this alphabet, which is called cuneiform. Cuneiform is the oldest writing system that we have found anywhere on Earth. We don't know if it is the oldest for sure. We just know that it is the oldest one we've ever found. So it's very likely that it is the oldest one, but there could be something older than this. Cuneiform, as you can see, was not actually written. It wasn't actually writing with a pen or a pencil or a brush or anything like that. You would have had a soft tablet like that, and it would have been made out of clay like mud. When it was still very soft, they would use something to press down into the clay. This would leave a shape on the clay, and this way they could write things that they wanted on the clay. And after they had written something on the tablet, they can bake the tablet so that it becomes very hard. And this is a very good way to preserve ancient writing. A lot of other ancient writing that is maybe older might not survive until today because it is written on something that will not survive the years. It will be destroyed very easily. However, cuneiform, because it is baked, it survives, and we have these today because of that. This is the art of Sumerian civilization, the Sumer civilization, and this is depicting a scene from the Epic of Gilgamesh. So what happens in the Epic of Gilgamesh? The story starts, and King Gilgamesh is a bad king. He takes advantage of people. If people are getting married, he will make the beautiful woman go to sleep with him before the husband can have his wife. He does very terrible things. He's always drinking. He will just eat all the time, not really being a very helpful king. The people of his kingdom cry out for help from the gods, and the gods hear them. The gods decide that they are going to send somebody named Enkidu down to stop Gilgamesh. He's going to challenge Gilgamesh. And Enkidu is like a wild man. He's got long hair. He doesn't wear any clothing. He is the opposite of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a symbol for civilization. the civilized man. Enkidu is the wild, primitive man. They are both two different extremes. Gilgamesh hears about Enkidu, and he sends a woman to civilize Enkidu. She does that by sleeping with Enkidu. So what does that mean? It's possible that this is meant to represent a loss of innocence. In the wild, you are innocent. You don't know about all of the excess and the luxury of civilization. But Enkidu, by sleeping with a woman, he loses his innocence. The wild animals start to run away from Enkidu. He can no longer communicate with wild animals. But this does not stop Enkidu from doing what he was created to do, which is to challenge Gilgamesh. So Enkidu goes to the city, he stands in front of Gilgamesh, and they wrestle. They have a fight. So first, Enkidu sleeps with a woman. His innocence is lost. He goes to the city to challenge the king. They see that they are equals. And because they are equals, they respect each other. Gilgamesh stops being such a terrible king. Enkidu becomes a little bit civilized, but he's still a little bit wild. And they begin a new life together at King Gilgamesh's ziggurat, his pyramid, his palace, his castle. They decide to have adventures together. Enkidu gets very bored. They go fight some very big monsters. You can see here we've got Enkidu and Gilgamesh, and they are fighting the bull from heaven. And this bull is actually the property of a goddess, a god. This god gets very angry when Enkidu and Gilgamesh kill her bull, and she decides she's going to punish them by killing Enkidu. Enkidu dies, and Gilgamesh is extremely horrified. Gilgamesh realizes that he too will die. So this begins the second half of the story of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh goes on an adventure to live forever. And one of the experiences that he has is that he meets an old man named Utnapishtim. And Utnapishtim has been given the gift of immortality. Immortality is living forever. He will never die, and he is the only man who will ever not die. He also has his wife with him, who also will not die. Gilgamesh comes to Utnapishtim, and he says, please tell me how I too can live forever. Utnapishtim says, sorry, I can't help you. His wife is a little more sympathetic. She tells Gilgamesh that there is a story of a plant, and if you go find this plant and eat it, you will live forever. And the plant is in the ocean. You can go here and you may find it. Gilgamesh goes, he finds it. However, after he comes out of the ocean, he wants to rest, and he puts the plant down. And as he does that, a snake comes out of the bushes and eats the plant. The snake sheds its skin for the first time because it can live forever. The snake will never die. It will shed its skin. It will lose its skin, and it will be like a new snake. Gilgamesh is extremely disappointed. He is extremely sad that he cannot live forever anymore. But he has other experiences that help him come to terms, help him to move on, help him to accept his fate, accept the fact that he is going to die. He goes back to Uruk, his kingdom, and he becomes a very good king until the end of his life. And the city walls that surround his kingdom are described as being everlasting. They say his city walls that he built will last forever. And so in that way, Gilgamesh too is living forever. He is living forever through the great city that he built for his people. If you want to know more about the Epic of Gilgamesh or Sumerian culture, I have other videos on my channel where I tell the story of Gilgamesh in more detail. And I also have a video where I talk a little bit more about Sumerian civilization. In the next video, we are going to talk about other civilizations of the area, and we are going to talk about how the Epic of Gilgamesh and other stories from Sumer influenced the cultures of the other places and the religions of the other places. I hope you liked this video, everyone. If you would like to see more videos like this, please leave me a comment. Or if you have any questions, you can comment and I will do my best to answer it for you. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye. 再见.